Hello and welcome to MoneyWi's Wednesday.
Welcome.
We are here. If you're listening to us on the Hoot podcast, welcome. My name is Andre,
And I'm Kelly.
and we are here with Envision Credit Union to talk to you about surviving summer. This is going to be fun. So we are here in Florida, in Tallahassee to be specific, and it is already 90 degrees.
It's so hot.
So hot. So we're going to talk about the heat actually, but we're also going to talk about some savings tips, some things to think about when we go into summer, especially for families, especially for people with kids and things like that. But some of this stuff can apply to everybody. But we're going to hit everything from vacations to electric bills and how to enjoy your summer finances without stressing yourself too much.
Right.
So let's get started.
Okay.
So segment one, we're going to talk about why summer breaks the bank. So why summer is so stressful for so many people financially. And there's a stat that says 60% of Americans report financial setbacks during the summer. And that's from a Bankrate study in 2023. And some of those reasons are, people go on vacation for summer. The kids are out of school. Got to figure out what you're going to do with them. You have a higher utility bill usually. And there's just little things that just add up over time.
Right.
People are home more. You're eating more. If you're like me, you're a bored snacker. So I snack. If I get bored, I'm going for the cupboard to start snacking. So, but that all those little things kind of add up. And so, Kelly, let me ask you, what's something that you always forget the budget for when it comes to summer?
So now I don't have kids at home, but I have my grandkids. I always forget to budget for the little things because little things add up, and some of the little things are really expensive, like a trip to a game room, or even going out to lunch or going out to dinner. If you don't have those things budgeted and you just think, oh, it'll be fun to go here or it'll be fun to go do this, it adds up fast.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know because I do have small kids at home. So we get invited to stuff all the time in the summer because everybody's kids are home.
Yes.
And, people are just spending more time together. So we get invited out more. And so, again, with two kids at home, the four of us going out together is expensive. And that's another one of those things we forget the budget for all the time. So, yeah. So one thing, vacations is something that people do over the summer. It's important to go and get away and take time. Your kids are out of school, so it's kind of the perfect time to get everybody away without having to worry about missing school. So let's talk about vacations. And Kelly, you're kind of the master of vacations.
Now. Now when it's just the two of us, yes.
I'm so jealous of the vacations you get to go on all the time. Oh, man. So, but let's talk about setting a realistic vacation budget. I'm going to lean on you pretty heavily for this.
Okay.
One. So I'm going to go off script a little bit and ask, when you are, because now that you're in the stage of your life that you're able to go on these really, really
you mean
nice.
Now that I'm old.
You said it. I did. But now that you're able to do these things, how do you, what got you to the point where you were like, we're going to start saving for these vacations and start doing the things that we actually want to do?
So we got to the point where we didn't want to go into debt because usually you go on vacation and you put it on your card and then you're paying it off long after the vacation is over with. So we just thought to ourselves, why don't we save up? Where do we want to go? And we really got it in our mind of what we wanted to do. So it made it easier to save.
Yeah.
So we had a goal in mind. We looked long and hard at the trip that we wanted to take, and we looked and said, if we went during the peak season, which is the summertime, it would cost us this much money. But if we went a little bit before the season or a little bit after the season, we saved a ton of money doing it that way. So for us, that was it was a bonus. So we were going to save before we went. So it was paid off before we got there. And we were saving money because we went when it wasn't as busy, it wasn't as hot.
Right.
And we had a great time. The money that we saved, we spent on souvenirs, whatever we wanted to spend it on. But we didn't break the bank to go, and it was awesome.
Exactly. And you tend to do the all expenses, quote unquote, all expensive, expenses paid type trips. So you don't some of those little things you don't have to worry about, except for souvenirs, extra meals and stuff like that. So that actually does help. So using price tracking apps or traveling off peak or midweek,
Yep.
like you were saying, off season even. If you wait beyond summer, because that's what we started doing.
Yeah.
We take our vacations in October now, because we kind of learned that nobody vacations in October.
Right.
And the places are the same. Like it's nice. They're a
Like,
little
they're
cooler.
exactly the same. Yeah. And we went to Italy in the end of February and the beginning of March, and nobody was there. I mean, there were still people there, but
Sure.
it wasn't like it would have been if we would have waited until
Mhm.
mid-June, and it was cool.
Right.
We didn't
Right.
have to sweat, and it was great. And it was, like you said, it was the same exact trip,
Mhm.
only better because it was cheaper
Cheaper.
and not so hot.
For sure. For sure. Yes. So maybe save those summer trips for
Yep. For another
for
time.
another time. Absolutely.
And maybe even save it. I know somebody, and it may even have been you, said that they do their family trip for either right after Christmas. So their Christmas present to each other is a family trip, but they do it like in January or February when it's off season. So they save money. It's a gift that they gave each other,
Mhm.
and then they get to take it. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, that was the other Kelly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
that was great. So even consider staycations. Now
Mhm.
we have recently learned about staycations, and honestly, staycations can be just as fun as a regular vacation. We even one time we got a hotel right in the city that we live
Oh,
in,
nice.
and got somebody to watch the kids, and we just kind of hung out here. And so it was way less expensive than having to travel somewhere. We actually got to experience some of the city that we had never experienced before,
Mhm.
and we were in a hotel, so it's like getting away. So
Yeah.
it was actually pretty cool. But you don't even have to go that far. You could just take a trip down the road to a local museum or a local zoo or something like
Mhm.
that, and kind of enjoy your time just where you are.
And even he said local, so even like look outside of your immediate area and see what there is. If you're like us and we live within an hour or two from all the beaches,
Mhm.
look to see if there's a zoo or a museum or something that you haven't visited just right down the road.
For sure, day trips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's amazing things out there if you just look for them.
Yeah. So also meal prepping and packing snacks. So
Yes.
I will talk about our Disney trip a couple of years ago. So we took a trip to Disney. We did it over summer because we're not smart. But we went to Disney, and we this was back when my son was 3. So this was a few years ago. And we're in there and we're looking at all the prices of the food of like the little restaurants that they have at Disney where the food isn't even great, but it's like crazy, crazy expensive. And then we were eating our food, and there was a couple next to us with sandwiches and like bottles of water and drinks and stuff. We were like, "Oh, you could do
Oh,
that?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we go to Disney all the time," because they lived in the area, but they were like, "We just bring our own food in and just do that." So when you go into theme parks and stuff like that, now get the rules because
yes.
sometimes the rules change. However, I think, don't quote me on this, I think right now you can still bring your own food in because of allergies and stuff.
Mhm.
So, but just check the rules before you go. If you can bring your own food and snacks
Do
into
it.
those places, 100%.
And maybe buy a treat so the kids are happy.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We got the little popcorn because when
Yeah.
the second time we went, many years later, we got one of those big popcorn buckets as a souvenir
Okay.
for the kids. Yeah, for sure. But we did bring our own snacks
Yeah.
the second time.
So speaking of Disney, I just want to throw this out there. I've
Mhm.
got 3 grandkids, and they've been a couple times to Disney. And the last time my daughter-in-law said, "You know what? We don't need to go to Disney. We don't need to spend all that money at Disney,"
Mhm.
because the kids had more fun at Disney Springs, where
Yeah.
everything was free.
Yeah, for sure.
And then also, if you're thinking, especially if you have little kids and those lines are so long and it's
Mhm.
very expensive to go, look to see what other theme parks are nearby
Mhm.
that might not be as expensive or might be more geared towards your child's age,
Right.
where you're going to have more fun and get the most bang for your buck. And not that there's anything wrong with Disney, but
Mhm.
there's other options out there too because you don't have to keep up with anybody. Your kids aren't going to remember that when they
Right.
were 3, you took them to Disney versus taking them to maybe Legoland or
Mhm.
Disney
Mhm.
Springs or something like that. They just know that they went on vacation with mom and dad.
That's exactly right, for sure.
Yeah.
One of our best, Kelly and I were talking off camera a couple of days ago. One of the best vacations we ever had was just to the mountains. And we just went to the North Carolina mountains and just hung out there for a few days. And my kids still talk about that
Yeah.
trip to this day. And we didn't do anything like super exciting. We didn't go to any fancy museums, theme parks, stuff like
Mhm.
that. We just hung out. And my kids thought that was the best trip ever because we were together.
Yep.
And we were just, spending time together. So, yeah. But whatever's right for your family, whatever you guys value, just try to think about it, plan ahead, and make sure you're doing it right.
Right.
So here's another stat. So families spend an average of $2,400 on summer vacations. That number actually sounds pretty accurate,
Yeah.
especially when you
Yep.
start going to these theme parks and resorts and stuff like that. Yeah, that
But
number
that's
can add up.
just the vacation. That's not the rest of the summer.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Um, so let's talk about the rest of the summer.
Okay.
So
We're broke because we went to Disney.
right. So you go to Disney,
Mhm.
right? But then you got the rest of the
The
summer,
rest of the summer.
and your kids are out of school.
Mhm.
What do? Right? Because a lot of people still have to work.
Right.
So what are you going to do with your kids in the meantime? Not everybody has a family member that can watch the kids. Not
Right.
everybody has all this stuff. So a lot of times camps and childcare are going to be important. So these are huge summer expenses. The average cost is about $2,300 per child for summer care.
Mhm.
And that sounds about right to me also.
Right.
So what are some tips that you can do to register to start taking care of these costs? So registering early, they'll usually
Yes.
give you a discount, right? So the sooner you can register, as soon as you get the idea if you want to start doing camps and stuff, go ahead and get them registered.
And maybe even start prepaying so that it doesn't all come out at one time.
That's a
If
great,
you have the
yeah.
option to pay each month towards it,
Mhm.
I've never heard anybody say no to money.
Right.
And it would help you because it's not right there where you can take it and spend it on something else.
Mhm.
If you're making, and your kids are more likely to go to that camp if you've
Right,
made the payments.
Another one is looking for local or city programs or church camps. Church camps are usually very, very cost effective.
Mhm.
Quick story on that. My son got accepted to a camp in Miami, like this really, really cool STEM camp. My son's really smart. Like I'm super proud of him. So he got invited to this really cool STEM camp in Miami. And they sent us this like really cool like certificate, and it was like embroidered and stuff. And it was like,
Ooh.
congratulations, right? And then on the last page, they send you the tuition. And it was like, okay, so for a week, it's going to be $3,500. Yeah. And so we were like, ooh, that's not something we can do. Like just not this, because we
Right.
just got the invite like a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. So it's like, we can't come up with that just out of
Right.
the blue. And we're not going to go into debt for it. So
That.
that part. So we had to brainstorm and think about what are some local options that kind of gives them the same idea, the same like STEM type of stuff, but it's cheaper because it's local, and it's cheaper because it's not this big exclusive thing.
Right.
And maybe if he gets invited to it again in the future, we can start planning ahead for that. But for this year, that's not something we could do. And so we did. We found a couple of camps that were maybe not on that level, but were like, sort of, it was there. It was the same kind of stuff. So we found some stuff that he can do that's kind of in his wheelhouse.
But you know what? You made that decision. You thought about it because everybody wants the best for their kid and everybody
Mhm.
wants to be able to do. But what was that 1 week that he would have had at the camp?
Mhm.
It would have ruined your budget for the whole year
Yeah,
because that was way more than you had planned for summer.
for sure.
So
And
that's okay because you made a tough decision and I'm sure he was okay with it. Even if they're a little bit disappointed at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it was the best decision that you could make
For sure.
for
And
right
I
now.
can't take any of the credit for that
Okay.
because I was ready to move
course you
heaven
were.
and earth to make it happen. Like I even told him, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to make this happen.
Oh,
My wife was like, that does not make financial sense. We're not
good
gonna
job.
do
Yeah.
that. So shout out to my wife for keeping me in line all the time.
Checks and balances.
For
Yeah.
sure. But no, you're right though. It would not have made financial sense
No.
for us to do that. So yeah. So also using your friend group. So you may have a friend group that maybe y'all can get together and do things over the summer. Maybe you have a parent that's a teacher who doesn't work over the summer that can maybe take a couple of days, or kids can hang out until you get off of work or something like that.
Mhm.
Just working something out with your peer
Right.
group and figure that type of stuff out.
And there's also vacation Bible schools.
Yeah.
And they're usually half day, but if that's a half day that you don't have to pay for, that's amazing.
Exactly.
There's mom's day outs
Mhm.
where and usually those are church related as well, the
Mhm.
mom day outs. But sometimes volunteering. If you volunteer
Yeah.
at the daycare, even if it's not something like, if you work full time and you can't volunteer during camp, maybe you can volunteer to put together the crafts and stuff for the next day, and you
Right.
can get a break on the tuition.
Right. Exactly.
So, and speaking about breaks on tuition, check with your employer, see if they have any
Mhm.
kind of, if they offer any kind of incentives, especially if you work for a school system or the city. I know that the city here, we're in Tallahassee, the city has a great camp program.
Right.
My grandkids go to it, they
Mhm.
love it.
Mhm.
And it's so much less expensive than
Right.
traditional daycare. So
Right.
there's
Exactly.
there's things out there, you just kind of need to look. Just type in summertime childcare
Mhm.
discounted rates or something like that. And there's also one thing that we didn't talk about with scholarships.
Scholarships for
Don't
sure.
try
Yeah.
and take a scholarship if you don't really need it, because
Right.
there's plenty of people out there that
Right.
need those. But if you're one of the people that really could use a scholarship for your child to go somewhere, by all means, fill out the application. That's
Mhm.
what it's for. They usually get grants for kids that need help with
Exactly.
with their summer camps or daycares.
For sure. They offer a scholarship for a reason because they know not
Yeah.
everybody can afford it.
Yeah.
So definitely. So what's the most creative thing you've ever done for childcare over the summer?
Oh my goodness. I'm not creative in that sense, and it's been a long time ago. I think you had mentioned swapping like somebody else taking care of
Mhm.
kids for a couple days. Grandparents are the bomb for taking care of kids,
Yeah.
even if it's just 1 week.
Mhm.
If you can do a grand camp to help out the grandkids or help out the parents, that's an amazing thing. And kids don't need a lot. I think
Right.
a lot of times we look and we want the kids to go to the best things or these sports camps and all this stuff because we're afraid that they're going to miss out.
Mhm.
They're not missing out. Sometimes they just want to be home with either the grandparents or the mom and dad
Yep.
or their friends' mom and dad and just sit on the couch. I mean, they're busy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So doing crafts at home or, a lot of times like Home Depot, a lot of the nurseries in towns will
Mhm.
have like a craft day where the kids can go do stuff and it's free. And it's different from what they always do.
Yeah.
Those are great opportunities to take. Bookstores.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bookstores always have people reading stories and
Mhm.
events
Mhm.
during the summer. Movie theaters. Movie
Yeah.
theaters usually have 1 day a week during the summer, at least by us,
Mhm. Mhm.
where the movies are super cheap and they're all kid friendly.
Right.
And usually the items are cheap where you can stick snacks in your purse
Yeah.
and you're good to go. But there's tons of different opportunities to kind of help the budget a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was not very creative. My son always went to regular schools because we didn't have a lot of family close by,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we just had to budget for it. So we knew
Mhm.
every year, all year long, we were going to be having to pay for summer camp, and
Mhm.
it's expensive. It was
It
expensive
is.
then. It's even more expensive now. But also, when you're talking about summer camps, look for those little offbeat ones. My granddaughter went to one for 2 summers, and it was like an arts and crafts camp,
Okay.
and she loved it. And the lady
Yeah.
was very artsy, and so they got to do something different than they normally do all
Mhm.
the time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were fortunate. We could never afford summer camp
right.
growing up, but I had an aunt that was retired, and so
Nice.
she would keep me until I got to a certain age, and then my mom worked
Till
out.
he was 18. No, I'm kidding.
No, but my mom had worked out with her employer where I could come and work over the
Oh,
summer with her,
nice.
and so I would file paperwork like stuff that little kids could do,
Right.
and but yeah, so I would hang out with her until she got off work, and then we come home. So
That's awesome.
that was like a little creative. Now, not every employer is obviously going to be able to allow you to do that, but she thought outside the box. It was
Yep.
like, hey, I have to go to work, and he's not in school, so what can I do? So he's not sitting at home.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. So we mentioned earlier the heat of the summer. If you're in a southern state like we are, you are baking
So
right
hot.
now already, and it's not even technically
I
summer yet,
know.
right? So your electric costs are going to start going up. It's
Mhm.
inevitable. Not only are you going to be paying for your electric costs, but you're going to be paying for your neighbor's electric costs as well. So your AC bill is going to spike in the summer, especially in the South. And there's some simple tips that you can do to try to cut costs. Now, you can close your curtains during the day. That helps, insulate your home and make sure
Mhm.
there's not heat coming in. And you want to use fans. Now, I will say On my little notes here, it says use your fan. However, I want to push back on that a little bit because I talked to an AC expert one time, and if you're not home, the fan doesn't do
The fan
anything.
doesn't do anything. It's only cooling you.
Right.
Yeah.
The fan doesn't actually cool the house, y'all.
Yeah.
All it's doing is moving the air so it
Yes.
feels like the house is cooler. So I say that to say when you're not home, turn the fan off.
Yeah.
Right.
Does absolutely nothing for you.
It's doing absolutely
except
nothing.
Adding to your electric bill.
Exactly. So but if you do want to feel cooler while you're in the home, definitely use those fans. And then run your appliances later in the evening instead of in the heat of the day, because you have your AC running full throttle. You probably got some other stuff going on. When you add those big appliances on top of that, it's just gonna multiply your bill. So think about stuff like that. We run our dishwasher overnight. I don't know if y'all do the same.
We do too.
Do you really? Yeah. So that's one of the things we do. Also use budget billing programs and energy audits. We did an energy audit on our house, and it's free. So it depends on what city you live in.
Right.
But here in Tallahassee, it's free. They come in, somebody from the city will come in, they'll literally audit your home and see if you're being efficient with your energy use. So they'll look at your outlets, they'll look at your breaker, they'll look at your insulation, they'll look at all this stuff. They came in our home and they were like, yeah, you could probably use some more insulation. And so they actually have a program with the city where they will pay for, I think, half of it or even more. So
they'll give you a voucher or whatever.
Yeah, we got a little voucher, and people came in and literally added insulation to our attic. And it literally did save us on our electric bill.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's all kinds of little programs out there. You just have to know. You have to ask. And if you ask and somebody tells you no, call somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But yes, if your city or wherever you are offers an energy audit, take them up on that offer for sure. Because they'll find cracks in maybe the doors, the windows may not be sealed properly. Like all that little stuff is allowing air to escape.
And they may even give you those items, because I know we had it done years ago and they gave us weather stripping for the doors. They even, when we moved to where we're at now, to the area that we're at now, Talquin even had a program for the nest. So they gave us a nest and put it in.
Yeah.
So because they're always receiving grants. So if you don't ask, you don't know, because they might not have anything at the time. But when they do have something, they'll put you on a list and give you a call.
For sure.
And it's worth it, because all that money adds up to you.
So I'm glad you mentioned the Nest. Upgrading to a automatic air conditioning system. The initial cost is going to be a little bit higher. However, over time, it really is going to save you if you don't have to manually change the AC and all that stuff. I know ours, I think we have a Nest also. And ours, if we want it to be, because I sleep cold, y'all. I love being cold. I love it. So we have it set to 64 when I sleep.
Oh, wow.
So, but it starts like earlier in the evening to gradually get there.
Okay.
And so it actually saves us an energy cost versus if it was like 70 at one point and then all of a sudden we had to go all the way down to 64. You're running your AC pretty hard. So stuff like that. So,
and my husband I always forget. So he has it set for the thermostat to go back up at like 8:30 in the morning to go back up to 73 until we're coming back home. So because we don't need to cool the house when we're not there.
Right.
And then we have it to ramp up when we get back to the house.
Some of them will automatically even know when you leave the house.
Yeah.
And they'll turn off the system.
Which is kind of weird.
It is a little creepy.
Yeah.
Because ours will do that. Ours knows when we're not home, so it'll turn off the system, and it actually knows when we're on our way home. And so it'll turn it on again so that by the time we get home, it's cool.
Nice.
So, I mean, yeah. But again, the initial costs on those type of things are a little expensive. But again, it's just, if it's within your budget, it's really worth it.
Right.
If you can do that. If you're renting, then that's something you want to talk with your landlord about because you don't want to start switching out people's stuff.
And speaking of when you're renting, before you actually rent somewhere, call the electric company and ask what the average bill is.
Yeah.
Because they won't give you any other information, but they'll let you know what the average 6-month bill is. Because sometimes you might be getting a great deal on the rent, or maybe not, but the electric bill is going to kill you, because there's people that pay $500-$600 a month for electric in a really small apartment. So that means that those are issues that you're not going to be able to control.
Right.
whether it's insulated or what the reasoning is for that the electric bill being so high.
Mhm.
But knowledge is power, because
Sure.
if it's going to be high, then you might want to reconsider where you're going to move to.
Absolutely. And sometimes they bundle stuff into the electric bill. They
Mhm.
call it the utility bill, but it's actually utilities, cable, and like
All
all
kinds of things.
internet, all
Yeah.
this other stuff. So just have those conversations and make
Yeah.
sure that you know what you're paying for and you don't get sticker shock when
Right.
that bill comes.
Because it can be a lot.
Oh,
Another
for
thing that
sure.
you hadn't mentioned was
Mhm.
closing off rooms that you don't use.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we have a guest bedroom that we hardly ever use, and we have those vents closed.
Mhm,
And we
mhm.
keep that door closed. That just gives a little more air in the rest of the house. So a
Very
little
good.
cooler in the rest of the house. And then make sure that your air conditioning unit is maintained. And it doesn't, you
Yes.
don't have to pay somebody to come out unless you're not handy. But if you're handy, look up a YouTube, pull up your air conditioning unit and look up a YouTube video on
Mhm,
how to clean it, and get out there once a year and just make sure that there's not stuff stuck in there
mhm.
causing it to have a problem, because having to replace an air conditioning unit is pretty tough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
First-hand knowledge.
Yes.
About 2 years ago, ours went out. It was not summer yet, which was
Good.
thank the Lord. But $7,000 later,
I know.
and our
That's
house is
crazy.
not big. It's just that's just how much they cost. Well, we got a little bit of a nicer one because we wanted it to last.
Right.
But yeah, it was not cheap
No.
to get that thing fixed. Cool. So our last little
You
segment.
said cool.
I said cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No pun intended. So some bonus hacks for summer spending. So you want to start a summer fund.
Yes.
Now, a lot of institutions, Envision included, has a holiday, what we call a holiday fund or vacation fund. What do we call it? Holiday vacation?
Vacation fund.
Vacation fund. Yeah. So this is a fund that you can contribute to throughout the year. However, you can't withdraw from it but a certain time of the year. So again, most institutions have some kind of form of this, but it's really good at helping you save money, especially when you're spending like me. Yeah.
I'm Cam.
Yeah. So of course you could do this yourself. You could just set money aside, but it's just easier for me because we have a vacation fund. So it's easier for me if we can put it somewhere where we can't touch it unless we get like a penalty or whatever. So yeah.
And even if it's just a small penalty.
Yeah,
it's
the
still a
penalty is not
penalty,
something
yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I think our penalty, you have to withdraw the whole thing, basically.
You have to pay for Envision. You have to pay a $5 fee every
$5
time
fee,
you
yeah.
withdraw something
Yep,
outside of the months that you're allowed to withdraw,
There you go.
which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's my $5. I don't want to
Yeah.
lose it. Yeah.
Why would I give somebody
Yeah.
else my $5? Yep.
Especially when I have to spend it on something. Like I
Mhm.
know that money is earmarked for either the grandkids vacation
Mhm,
or
mhm.
grandkids summer camp or your kids summer camp.
Yep.
So if it's specific, it's easier to save and not touch it if you know exactly what it's for.
Exactly. Exactly. Another thing is using those reward points that
Yes.
you've been saving up on your credit cards or whatever throughout the year. Summer is the time to use them.
Yep.
If you're flying, if you have to go places,
Hotel stays.
for
Mhm.
sure, use those points during the summer. So this is the time to use those. Cashback rewards, gas cards, groceries, stuff like that. Use those reward points.
Because it all adds up. Even some of the gas stations have, like, when you sign up with them, and it
Mhm.
doesn't cost you anything to sign up, but they give you 25 cents off a gallon. Well,
Mhm.
that's a lot of money if you figure out how many times you fill up your gas tank.
Mhm.
That money just gets set aside. That's money that you're saving to be able to spend or save on something else.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time somebody asks you to come hang out, eat out, or whatever, maybe have a potluck instead.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, do y'all mind coming over and we can just, have a potluck or do something like that so that we can all contribute. And, restaurants are so expensive.
Hey, what
now.
happened to the kids eat free things?
That's gone.
When my son was little,
That's
there was
gone.
always kids eat free, and now
I
they're like
know.
$7, $8 a kid.
You know what's funny about that? We used to have every day marked, like which restaurant
Which
was getting
yeah.
free.
We never, when I was a kid, we never went places that didn't have
Right.
it free. And even with my son, there was always a place where kids ate free. We
Yeah,
hardly ever
for
went
sure.
out to eat without
I
that.
can't think of any that still do it.
They are
No.
gone.
Yeah, they must be. If y'all know any, let me know.
Yeah.
Because
he's got
we've been
2 at
hunting.
home. Yeah, he
for sure.
needs some free food.
But yeah, so potlucks, game nights, hanging out with the friends and the family,
Mhm.
and doing stuff like that. It'll save you some money. and plan your paychecks around the summer. So I this is in here because my wife is a teacher, right? Now we opted to get the 12-month pay.
Oh, nice.
So we don't so much have to worry about that, but not every teacher does that, right?
And not every school system offers
Not
that.
every school system offers. That's exactly right. So if you have 10-month pay or 9-month pay or however your school system does it, then you have to figure out what the summer is going to look like, right? We talk about this in counseling a lot when we do financial counseling, especially people like that do gig work or stuff like that that have irregular pay schedules. How do you save now for those months that you're not making the money that you were making? And so those are conversations and planning that you really, really need to take seriously because it's not guaranteed you're going to be able to get a summer job.
Right.
It's not guaranteed that emergencies aren't going to happen and stuff like that. So you really want to make sure that your bills are taken care of in those months that you aren't working.
Right.
So, but again, if you're a teacher or a gig worker, that's just really, really important to start thinking about those things.
Right.
If you are able to get a summer job, then that's great. But I always tell my wife, and again, our situation is our situation, but we are fortunate enough to be like, if you want a summer job, go ahead. If not, then we'll be fine because we planned ahead for that, right? So, again, on that, I'm gonna be specific to teachers again. So something just popped in my head. I say that because my wife gets stipends because she does extra stuff for the school. We don't get those stipends over the summer.
Right.
So that's money that is not coming in the check. And so we have to account for that because we've built our lifestyle around a certain paycheck.
Right.
So you gotta plan for that kind of stuff. So it's just those little things that some people don't really think about in the moment. When summer comes around, all that stuff comes to a head.
Right. And even if you don't have kids, if you're in that situation where you're a 10-month paycheck out of the year, planning ahead to maybe pay those car payments ahead of time, make a little bit extra on your house payment. If you're not disciplined enough to put that money in your checking account and save it there.
Right.
It's one of those things that it's a really great thing to even like right when you start, if you're fresh out of school or you've switched careers and you become a teacher or somebody that gets paid a certain, like you said, the regular paychecks or just plan ahead to start paying that way right from the start. And it becomes habit. Like you don't even have to think about it. It's like, okay, I know that I won't get a paycheck this month or if you get a bonus, try not to live on that bonus.
Right.
And I say that we all live on our bonuses, right? Because we know if I do this, this, and this, I'm going to get this bonus. But what happens if you don't get that bonus?
Right. Or incentives. If you're paid in incentives as well.
What happens if something changes and you don't get that? Then are you still able to make your payments? And that's a tough thing. So if I were going to take one thing away from that, I would say if you have that extra money coming in, try not to live on that extra money and put that aside for maybe if you do have kids, it's for summer camp or the little things that are unplanned.
Yeah, I always recommend to try to design your lifestyle around your base pay. And then everything extra is just extra that you can do with what you need to. Because like you were just saying, if you craft your lifestyle around your incentives or tips or whatever extra that you make, that's awesome. But if you have a bad month, then things get out of control really quickly. If I had to make a personal recommendation for all the teachers out there, I would personally recommend that you do the 12-month pay instead of if you have that option, instead of the 10th-month pay, just because, again, you never know what summer is going to bring.
You never know. You never know what life is going to bring.
You never know what life is going to bring. That's for sure. That is for sure. So I have a final stat here. 83% of Americans say that inflation has changed the way they plan for summer. We all know inflation is a reality of our world right now. Everything is more expensive.
Everything.
Literally everything is more expensive. And people are not getting paid more to account for that. So you really have to consider this year might not look like last year.
Right.
Because things are just more expensive right now. So, all right. So I got a final question for you, Kelly. What's a quick win that someone could do this week to stay on track for summer?
Make a budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have budgets on our website. You can get budget apps. Make a budget and see where you're spending your money. There may be something, a subscription that you have. Maybe you don't, I'm going to pick on Netflix. Maybe you don't ever watch Netflix, or you don't watch your Prime videos anymore. Delete that. Get rid of that. Maybe Hulu. Like, I'm not picking, but if there's a channel that you don't watch, that might only save you $15 a month, but that's $15 a month more in your pocket.
Yeah.
Not just TV stuff. If you don't use cable, if little things, look at your insurance.
Gym. Let's
gym
be real.
membership.
If you're not going to the gym,
Get rid of it.
You're wasting your money.
Look at insurance. I mean, everything is more expensive right now. So maybe you're not going to find a better deal on insurance, but you don't know unless you look. So take a few minutes, do your budget, and then look to see where you might be able to cut back.
Yeah.
I would love to say cut back on groceries. That's not going to happen. Most of the time. Maybe cut back on going out, because although groceries are expensive, it's still cheaper to do it at home. Oh, and one thing, when we're talking about energy, try not to use your stove as much. Maybe use
that's a good point.
You can use the stove top, but heating up the stove heats up your house. So you save a little bit of
air fryer.
energy there. Yeah, your air fryer.
If you have an air fryer, then that's going to be your best friend. The microwave also. I learned that the microwave uses a whole lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
But, so if you can reheat stuff in the air fryer or on top of the stove or stuff like that, it'll actually save you your energy costs.
But look to see how much you're spending eating out. And I know the kids love to go eat out, but because as a grandma, I will take my grandkids out to eat. But you know what I find? They will enjoy what we have at home just as much, and it's usually healthier. And my pocket's not quite as wrecked when we eat in. So
yeah, we went to a breakfast spot a couple of weeks ago. The 4 of us went, and the bill was like $60.
Yes.
I was like, could have cooked all this at home.
Yes. We went somewhere and had pancakes, and it was $75.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to spend $75 on pancakes. We didn't do that again. I spent $10 on pancake mix and chocolate chips, and they loved it because they got to eat whatever they wanted at grandma's house.
Absolutely.
And I loved it because I only spent like $10 on that $75 meal. But it's choices that you have to make, and sometimes it's okay to splurge, but if you look at your budget and you're like, okay, I can do this, then that's a win for you because you made a decision to do something that benefits you.
We just got a question from Denisha. She says, I'm late, but have you all talked about budgeting for teachers who get paid monthly? So we haven't gotten into that specifically.
But let me talk on this one because my husband was a state worker for a long time, and state workers, most of them get paid monthly. And that is a tough thing to deal with when you first start out. We struggled with it. Luckily, I got paid biweekly and he got paid monthly. So what we tried to do was put all of our big bills all at once, like our mortgage payment, car payment, and things like that, so that we got it at the same time that his check came in. So then we could live off of our check. Now, there's certain bills that you will have that cannot change the date. Your mortgage is one of them. Mortgages, unless it's a second mortgage, mortgages are due the first day of the month, grace period till the 15th. Don't try and set up your payments to go on the 15th of the month, because if you're going to be late from that, then there's no grace period there. Then you're going to have a big late fee on top of that mortgage payment. But every other bill that you have can be adjusted. So if you have a situation where your car payment is due on the 28th, but you get paid on the 30th, call that company up and ask them to move, and just say, I get paid once a month. Can we move this payment until the end of the month, till the date that I get paid? Because state workers get paid the last day of the month.
We typically have a wiggle room of about 45 days or something like that. So it's not impossible. Dates can move for sure.
Dates can move for sure. Again, the only one that can't move is the mortgage payment. But set it up so that, set yourself up to win. Like, don't, if you know that you're not going to get paid before that happens, then make sure that you're calling, because your lender does not know what's going on in your life unless you call them up and talk to them.
So again, my wife is a teacher, and so she gets paid monthly. And one thing that we learned is kind of like what you were saying, even if we couldn't move the dates on like the mortgage or whatever, we still paid it at the beginning of the month. Because when the check comes in, we just want all of our big bills, the big bills, car payment, mortgage, all the living need
all the
bills.
things that you need to pay.
We paid all of that stuff at the beginning of the month. That way we wouldn't get caught up in life and then miss a bill later because we forgot about it. We didn't think about it. Something else got in the way. We wanted to make sure our living bills were paid.
And because mortgage and car are usually your two biggest payments. If you fall behind on a mortgage payment or a car payment, it's really hard to get those caught up yourself.
Really is, yeah.
So if you can make those your priority and get those paid when you get that check, then everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah, because what I say a lot of people, they go through the month and they spend their money and then they hope for the best. But if you can set yourself up at the beginning to get all those big bills taken care of, and that way, again, life can't happen or life will happen, but you won't get behind on your bills and stuff.
Because then you can take that. Let's say you have $500 left over after you're paying everything. So you want to split that $500 up between the rest of the month. So, because the last thing you want is to have more month than money.
Right.
And so if you can do that, it kind of gives you an idea of what you need to budget for as far as groceries and everything else.
Sure. But I do agree. It makes it way more difficult to get paid monthly rather than biweekly. So you just
I was so happy when my husband we got paychecks every week coming in. So yeah, that struggle is real.
Yeah, especially if you're a single income household, right? Then it gets way more tricky. It's a little bit easier for us because I get paid biweekly.
Right.
But my wife gets paid monthly. But we still have that model where we pay all the big bills at the beginning, and then throughout the month we use my checks to do other stuff. So,
good job.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you for the question.
Hope that answered your question. All right. So with that, we want to. I hope you got some tips about summer, about how to prepare for summer, how to spend for the summer, how to think about the things that we're doing. We're not saying don't go on vacation. We're saying just think a little bit more about when, why, and how you're going to go on vacation. Maybe this year isn't a good year to go on vacation. Maybe you can go on a bigger vacation next year if you save a little bit more.
Right.
Just don't get that fear of missing out. Don't get that FOMO. It'll be okay. I promise. It'll be okay. But again, if you do want to go on vacation, just have a plan and do what you need to do. Saving money for utilities and stuff like that, making sure you have a plan for childcare, making sure the kids are taken care of, if that's something that you need to worry about. Something we didn't mention that we'll just touch on, if you're a student and you're not in school, finding that summer job and figuring out what that looks like, or if you need to go home for the summer.
Yeah, if you're a student that lives in the dorms or in student housing and you have to go somewhere else for those couple months, that's a huge one.
Yeah, for sure. And then also just thinking about the other little life hacks that you can do, like having a vacation fund, saving money away, stuff like that. So if you want any more information about budgeting, saving, about any of that stuff, you can go to envisioncu.com/moneywise. We have a ton of free resources, whether you're a member or you're not a member. It's all available right there on an easy to see platform that you can do. And we just want to thank you all for, spending some time with us today. You have any last thoughts?
I don't.
Okay.
Keep it cool there.
Yeah, there we go. So share this pod with somebody that may need it for the summer. And we just want to say, keep it smart, stay cool, and stay money wise.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Don't.